in each of those territories, they're rather different. We're probably not that different from Australian universities, and that's why they've often been the institutions which we've looked at to learn something from. The Australian universities are public universities. Their funding, the balance between fee and government funding is similar. They have similar degrees of autonomy as we do. We're different from many American universities in the sense that they often have large endowments, and that enables them to do different things. And many of the American universities are structured with liberal arts undergraduate degrees and professional postgraduate degrees. So that has a huge impact on the whole dynamic and management of the university, and the role of a university president there is different compared to the role of a vice chancellor, say, in Australia and here. We're different from Asian universities in that by and large they are much more within a culture of authoritarianism certainly China, but even to a significant extent Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, the universities are much closer to the state and much more within the influence of political authorities. In some of those countries, and Japan in particular, the universities have escaped some of that, at least intellectually. In China, quite often the critique of Chinese universities is that there's not as much innovation and creativity as you would expect given the investment and the size and the talent within those universities. And that may have something to do with the culture of the discipline, of authority, of independent thinking, etc. So those are differences, and that translates into different styles of leadership and what leaders can do, and how they either function in relationship to their deans and heads of departments, which is much more top-down, much more authoritarian. You know, at UCT and in many South African universities, a dean cannot be appointed or be renewed unless their faculty board supports that renewal. And a vice chancellor at UCT needs to get a 2/3 majority of the Senate to be reappointed or to be appointed in the first place. And what that signals is that if you don't sustain the confidence of your colleagues, you can't do the job and you won't be able to do it well. It's not, and even though your formal accountability is upwards to the council, and the council can fire you if you mess up financially or if the university isn't doing well, they can't appoint you without ensuring that you have the support. So that culture is not everywhere. It's not in the European universities. European university presidents are mostly appointed from the top down, and no one knows in the university who's going to be the president until the president's appointed. So other differences have to do with the degrees of funding, and that's clearly sets, and linked to that is the balance of workload in a university. In poorer countries and in middle-income countries, and in South Africa and other African countries, we have much heavier student loads, and we take in students with a much wider range of preparedness than you would in top universities in developed countries. So in each case, I think one has to be selective about what lessons can be learned, and but there are other things which I think are common. Some of the lessons of leadership that we've already talked about, I think are common. In almost any university, I think one would get much further if you can mobilize and win academics over than by telling them what they have to do, because you'll just have a knee-jerk rejection of a proposal if you try to tell them, even in more autocratic environments.